you're talking about just kind of your reason for waiting until now, and for this kind of being the right timing. And we've also talked about, babe, about the art and your room, how beautiful it is, and here you have people that are seeing you in this beautiful room that you've created. You're all dressed. You look gorgeous. Um, you know, appears that you don't have anything going on. So I think it's important to kind of clear up that confusion. Can you talk a little bit about that, and then
Yeah, I think it's important. Let me finish.
Okay.
Let me finish what I was saying about why now. And that will lead right into.
Okay.
So I was saying how it's difficult. It's difficult to tell your story when and mine spans 20 years. At least. There's some questions about certain things even before 20 years, before my first tumor. And then you add on that you're still in it. That's going to be really tough, and because you don't know from day to day, hour to hour. Number two, and we started Spoonful, and we started interviewing you guys and meeting you. And I know this was said in such love, and what the times it was said, like, mine's not, I've heard several times from you guys, but mine's not as bad as yours. First of all, stop that. Stop it. We all have what we have for several reasons, and it was you need to learn from that, and you need to go through that, and you were made to, and you can, and it's something that I'm sure I couldn't, and vice versa. It just, you can't go there. You just can't go there. I'll keep reminding you guys for as long as we do that. Do this with you, that comparison helps no one. So what happened when that was said to me over and over? And I'm already super sensitive to all of you, which is why we started Spoonful, and we wanted to get your stories out there. Because you matter a hell of a lot to me. There's no way, and I know that I'm human, and that it will seem like we fell. Oh, they didn't go live. Oh, they didn't remember my birthday. They didn't wish me happy birthday, but they did someone else. I didn't get this in the mail, but somebody else did. I'm one of you guys. And I love you as hard as I do because I know. I need you to remember that I'm one of you. I'm very rare and complicated case, so I don't have a team of doctors taking care of me. They don't know what to do with me. And RSDSA or CRPS, especially cranial, which the director of CRPS for the US, I believe I'm the only cranial he's talked to. And without him, I don't know what I'd do. But still, there's very limited options for me that I have not tried, and they are extremely expensive that insurance will never touch. Please be gentle on us. Rex is never ending working. Julie's never ending supporting. Our children never ending supporting. And I'm always fighting, just like you, but still trying to do this. So forgive us. like we, you know, you guys never need forgiveness. I already know. But if you're struggling with anything like that, please forgive us and give us a little bit of grace. We're going to do this. It can be sloppy, and we know it's low budget, and it can look like a mess, but so what? We're doing it. So when I love you guys so much that we're still doing this. That should mean a lot. But I was telling Rex, I can't go tell my story and have any of them feel like I'm some special case or that I'm more important. Or I really wrestled with that from the beginning. And so Rex tried his best. And he did a great job. And he just had a couple dates mixed up, which he corrected. But it was a very raw moment that he needed to do, and he needed to get that out there. And you guys responded beautifully to it, and were so gracious. And that was a big one, right? Is that I don't want them to take anything that I say or anything from my story and compare it to yours. There should never be that comparison.
Well, it's just maybe it's the right timing, right? As we get ready for some of these next steps.
I want to touch on that too. You'll get some more answers about why now, coming up here, but I also needed to consider our children and our families, and you know, how much do we tell, how much do we share, respecting their privacy and their desire to be, a lot of them, and it's just it's a hard, going back to it, it's a hard thing. So I'll touch on some of the reasons it's hard. Many will be boring, click off. Many will be, and we've been told this. So it's not just us guessing at what's going on in people's heads. Some have said, I can't. I don't want to. It's uncomfortable. I don't want to see suffering. I don't want to hear about it. Click, you know. I don't want to face something that I can't do anything about, even though we can. We all can. This is too monumental, and you're right. We're trying to change that. What am I going to do? You're going to tell your story, and what am I going to do? You know, I could go over to that account, and they're selling something beautiful. I know what I can do to support them. Buy their product. You know, and so it's putting some of, I would say it's up there, beyond death for most. And I'll say it using my experiences alone. Although we've seen suffering and our minds have been blown.
Yeah.
My experience alone, I can say pretty firmly that it's like somebody that's running from a cop, right? With a gun or a dog. They usually kind of stop and okay when the dog's coming.
Yeah.
You know? And because it's that suffering state. You know, a lot of us rather be just take me. Just let me die. I don't want to suffer. And that's exactly what we're asking you to look at. And it is as bad as you might think, and it is worse than I'm sure you think. I've been in pain that has caused true trauma. I've been in pain that I know my body could shut down from and die. I've been in pain that I still can't comprehend that could happen in a body without permanent and damage in a way that utterly destroys the body for good. I've been in pain that has beyond shocked me and my family. Been in pain that has, if you're a person that gets nauseous but it's hard for you to get it out, I'm that kind of person. I've been in pain where I've been throwing up over and over. It's just, it makes you that sick. And I felt several nerves. It's bad enough, I'm sure most of you that we're talking to right now have had a toothache.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when you have that toothache? You can't think of much anything else.
Yeah, it takes
You
over.
can't, yeah, work gets, and it's, we all can, I think we all can agree that dentist isn't our favorite place, but he sure is when you have that toothache, and you'll take off a family event, work, anything. Everything stops until that tooth stops hurting. Well, that's 1 or 2 nerves. I've
Try the
felt
nervous system.
several at that level at one time, and we're talking about pain that puts your body into it's not a seizure, but my body will jerk, and it's just so traumatized, and it takes days to recover.
And how long have you been dealing with and living with chronic
I was
pain?
literally just thinking that.
It's been going on for how long?
I'm sure, because I've been very close to passing a couple times after some surgeries, as just things kind of went haywire. And there's been pain. Well, I want to go back to, I am sure if, I'd like to think different, but you guys, I'm being honest. If God were to say, I'm talking about this kind of pain and this kind of suffering, and I'm talking about, what is it now, 8 solid years of unimaginable suffering. That's not including the 12 years that led up to it that was getting harder and harder.
Well, the different diagnoses. What are the diagnoses?
Well, real quick, I would have said, I want to make sure I say this, I would have said, oh, well, Rex and the kids are still young, they'll be fine, you'd probably take me home.
No.
You know, no, I'm saying, that's truly, if I would have understood, but God is good and he knows how we work, and he knows that he can work with us, and he can build muscles and help us grow in we cannot comprehend. As much as we can't comprehend how far and deep pain goes, we cannot comprehend how much strength and love and resiliency he gives us. It would have terrified me. It would have terrified me. And yes, it's okay for you all to know there's suffering that you cannot imagine. And on several levels, there's suffering physically. And then that turns into mentally. And then that turns into isolation eventually, because our humans fall away, usually. Or they don't fall away, but they don't know what to do.
Helplessness.
And that turns into who the hell am I and how much strength do I got? And how am I even going to figure that out? Because I can't breathe right now. And then that turns into thoughts of, I'm only causing pain on top of pain. Why am I here? I've passed through every bit of that. And God keeps surprising me and humbly reminding me that pain can get worse. And things can flip in a second. You think you're, like I'm as strong as I can get, Oh no, no.
What was the condition that you, when you think of anything that has contributed to your chronic pain? We know that in my story I talk about the lacrimal gland tumor, but it may even go earlier than that.
Yeah.
Kind of take us back and talk about, over these years, what you feel has contributed to your chronic pain, and what have you formally been diagnosed with?
That's an interesting question. We're still figuring me out. My family doctor likes to just call it Nelle syndrome. And he's not saying that in a way that takes away the seriousness. It just... Rex can attest to this, and any of my family. I just have always been. I don't remember. I don't remember, other than maybe a couple times where I've been, that we've got this, I'm the normality to a doctor or to a procedure, or I've always been well, hell, we weren't expecting that.
For a first, right?
Yes,
this is
very
first.
often
this is
the
a
first.
Yeah.
So, I could go far back, but it just wouldn't do any service to us. I don't think. It's just guesses, I think.
But it really started.
It really started with if you've hung on with us long enough through, I'm sure this will be needing a few uploads. Talking about my last pregnancy with Abby, and how they'd say you just look depleted or you look sick, and it was because I was, and they're just trying to get me through a pregnancy. My body was screaming, I can't do this. And I carried her full term, and I was never so proud because of the strength it took for her and I. Little did we know what was happening beyond Abby's little body having something serious. I had a tumor growing in my head, connected to my left lacrimal gland, so right behind my left eye. And much of what was giving life to Abby was giving life to the tumor. And so it was all of a sudden made sense. The first I started seeing my eye literally change. And I remember Rex one morning woke up, and he's, watching me wake up, and he had this alarmed look. And I don't know why this morning, but because it was gradual, and I was feeling a massive amount of pressure in my head as well.
It was because I seen you from a different angle from the mirror. It took.
Oh, okay.
The mirror kind of.
It did. It did.
Switched,
If I looked, so you know how a lot of mirrors, you have your mirror and then your medicine cabinet, which a lot of times has mirrors. You can see yourself in a lot of different angles, and my eye was not just coming forward and out; it was turning. And I knew for weeks there's my eyes different and there's pressure. But until Rex said something, I wasn't going to say anything. I had a lot going on, and a newborn and 2 other beautiful kids, and Rex, you know, we still in our first years of marriage, and families that I love dearly, and you know, it's just life like the rest of us. And that came to screeching halt when Rex was like alarmed, and I said, well, there is, like, the pressure's insane. And so we called, and at the time we lived in West Valley still, and my optometrist there was like, we need to get you in. And I've been so blessed with doctors,
eye doctors, and even
just doctors,
surgeons,
and nurses and surgeons across this entire journey. And even now, when I don't really have an assigned doctor for me, there's a lot of grace, and you know, I think even with some things going on just with laws and insurance, and I have a lot of angels. I always have. But when I went to get my eyes checked, and this was before they could take the pictures of the back of your eye like they do now.
Yeah.
But he didn't need to do much. I remember he looked in my eyes with his light, and they said, I'm going to look. And it was really strange, and that's why he said, I'm going to now look. I'm going to hold your face, and I'm going to look down on top of your head. Well, that usually doesn't happen at a vision appointment. And my little sister was there helping me take care of her newborn, so I could focus on my appointment. And so she was there, and I don't know what I would have done without her being there in that appointment and after. And after he looked down on my head, when he came back around, he had terror on his face. And I don't know if he's trying to hide it or not.
Yeah.
And he said, your bone, your forehead, your brow bone is literally out further than the right side. That much pressure.
Wow.
And he said, come to the front with me right now. So at that point, it wasn't about how well you can see. Let's check your vision. Let's check the pressure test. He didn't need the air pressure test, which we all hate. He just said, come up with me to the front. And he got on the phone, and he called the Moran, which, if you're from Utah or surrounding states, you know that is one of the best places if you've got anything to do with your eyes and vision. If I'm looking at Rex once in a while, we're trying to time these kind of little sessions with our camera. But I'll finish it up with the Miranda. I have a couple minutes of that. Okay. He said, I'm going to refer you to a doctor there, and he's the best doctor there. And I think I was in just a few days later. Well, actually, they actually did an ultrasound on my eye, which I didn't know. So many things I didn't know were tests. I didn't know they did them. I didn't know. And it was just a whirlwind from there. You know, it was you know, you need to have all these appointments, but they're emergent. They need to happen. And then pretty soon I was meeting with my doctor at the Moran, and he has been one of my dearest angels for 20 years. And I'm going to need him to live as long as I do, in case anything happens. But and we'll explain the 20-year span a little later on. But yeah, I was meeting with him. He had my scans, and he brought them in the room. He had both the ultrasound and the MRIs, and he put that up there, and I didn't know what was going on, but I knew that that thing right there probably shouldn't be right there, and I can see that my eye is out further than I thought.
Yeah.
And then it was starting to press. It was so much pressure on my eye that it was starting to now press on the brain, and so it was a very size of a very large egg. And he proceeded to tell me how they were going to go about getting that out, and that it needed to be quick. So I think I had surgery scheduled for a week later, and it was a surgery that a lot of residents and students were able to join. I've always been open about that. Learn from me. Whether I stay or go, you need to learn from me. But when he started telling me, we're going to cut your eyelid open, and we're going to, clamp it in 4 different places. And I didn't realize until I saw pictures, which I'm weird. I'm one of those weird ones that wants the pictures. And he's like, what's wrong with you? And puts them back. But I just seen my eye and these 4 different they look like kind of heavy duty wires pulling in different directions so they could open my eyelid as much as possible. And my eye was not in the right position. It was shoved up against my nose. He explained that he would probably have to cut my brow bone, which he has not had to fully cut out ever, like he did. He couldn't believe. But then I saw the tumor just sitting there in my head, and
that must have been
yeah,
unsettling to say the least, right?
Well, I was like, well,
wow.
There you are.
Yeah.
I got something to say to you.
Yeah.
He took that out. He showed Rex. And at that point, it immediately has this shrinkage, right? So Rex wasn't able to see other than on the scans, but he came out and showed Rex and said, and he took out as much as he can. We're talking about these teeny, teeny cells, and a lot of people that have cancer or other conditions like this, they're trying to get anything they can while they're saving the function. This is a difficult tumor, benign mix, and at least at that time, it could be a difficult tumor, one that is hard to understand, hard to track, can be very aggressive, and can turn deadly at any point. And when it turns cancerous, it can be very quick spreading and aggressive. So that was very heavy. There were several times that I looked at my 3 teeny children. And wondered how the hell I was going to ever leave them. And then looking at Rex and just, we haven't had enough time together, And for reasons that I won't touch on here, when I was a little girl, it was a pretty important favor I was asking God, so I decided, because it will lead into this next part, and it'll make sense. God, if you can do this for me and not make this a problem for my family. And as this little girl, I didn't understand how God, who he was in my life, how it really worked, and how some pretty heavy things in my life should be dealt with, and how, so all I knew was to turn to him and barter with him, like, if you can make sure that I'm okay and my family's okay, and that this doesn't get in the way of their happiness, Um, and in my little head that didn't understand, and that, you know, kids need a lot of visuals, and so I said, I'll give you your key back. I don't even quite understand. I think that was his key to my key to my right to him. How I was going to communicate with him, how I get back to him. And I said, I'll give it back. You won't ever have to worry about me. And for years, I'd still pray, of course. You know, there's so many people that I care about, and I'd always say a prayer when I'd hear an ambulance, and I'd always think about those families, and a lot of prayers for my sweet parents, because they just endlessly served and worked and served and worked, and I could see exhaustion. And so, but not, I kept my word pretty good over the years. And then this tumor showed up, and then I'm looking at my 3 children, and I'm looking at Rex, and I'm thinking of my siblings and my parents and in-laws, and Rex's family who I love like my own, and friends, and just, but mostly Rex, and then those 3 children that we chose to bring into this life. And I got on my knees, like, said a prayer that was unlike any other prayer before or after. I basically said, I'm aware that I'm in a very serious situation. And I'm aware that this is going to be one of the hardest, much harder than the prayer I prayed to when I was younger. And this time I'm going to ask for something. And that wasn't easy, because I felt like I was breaking a very sacred promise.
Yeah. Like it wasn't okay or something.
Yeah. I was like, can I have my key back for just a minute? I'll give it right back.
Oh.
You know? You know, it sounds so silly because, you know, I'm a mom and a wife and an adult now, right? But I hadn't allowed myself to go through the learning process with him enough.
Still have that child within.
Yeah, it still had a lot of that innocence that, and a lot of that innocence isn't always good. You know, we need to, education is important. And how beautifully he did, though. How beautifully he did. From there on out. I'm sure if he could have said in plain words as he held me, he would have said, this is going to be a long journey, but there won't be a second that you're alone. And one day, you'll be thankful for it. Beyond. Okay, but he knew not to say that right then, you know. He knew not to be, ooh. Yeah, no, don't approach me like that. Not right then. And how beautiful is he, you know? When we don't want to believe in him, when we don't want to look to him, when we don't want anything to do with him, when we are angry at him, and when nothing makes sense, and so it's easier to just say, you don't exist. And yes, I'm going there because I promised him I would for years. And I'm only getting brave enough to actually do it.
Love it.
A spoonful is his. And I know that we've said that. It's in our mission statement on very, it's on government papers. That is who we are. And that's who runs it. And by no means does that, I need to put this in there always. By no means does that mean that we do not accept and love wherever you're at. And that we do not, I don't look at it, and I even say those words and then kind of pause, because some of you might think, that's not just a place I'm at, it's who I am. And absolutely, we're going to stumble on on words as the world changes so fast, and there's new beliefs and new ways of saying things, and Rex and I pride ourselves on really trying hard to understand all suffering. And so I don't want my testimony to be a deterrent for you to be here and feel safe and feel like you have family. I have to say that. And so having said that, I said what I needed to say in that prayer. I'm not done being a mom here. And I'm not ready for you to say you can be a mom from here with me. No. I need to hold them.
Yeah.
And I need to serve them. I need to make sure their bellies are full and that they're sleeping peaceful, and that when they're hurt, I can do my damnedest to take it away. And Rex has suffered enough, with his stuff, and so I need to do the same for him, give him all the comforts that I can. But I made myself at the end of that prayer say this out loud. And it's not important that everybody does, it's important that I did. I said all I wanted to say. It was important for me to give it back and acknowledge that he knows better than me. So I choked out the words, "Thy will be done." And for 9 years, I was tumor free. And they usually they make you, this tumor's so unpredictable, and I told you it could be aggressive, that they have you wait 10 years. 10 long years. So I had my MRIs every year and my checkups twice a year, I think, and where they take pictures. They were looking at any sign in several different ways, and 10 years. I remember thinking, how the hell am I going to get? Okay. And so I see my doctor at 9.5 years. That was my last, what I thought would be my last visit. And it was close enough to that 10-year mark, and he seen nothing, no change. As a matter of fact, at that point, they were watching the cavernoma in my left temporal lobe more than my tumor, because it just hadn't changed. They said it's close enough to 10 years to say it's good, you're good. And they don't use the word cured easily. And my doctor did not. But he said, I think we're good. You go home and just try your best to just live. So for 9.5 years, I lived in fear, terror.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to say that, because a lot of you say, how are you so strong? How do you have so much faith? How have you gotten through it? Well, it's been a long time, and I've passed through a hell of a long journey, many years of living in terror. And when I say terror, it kept me up. I checked the mirror 10 times a day. It was like any kind of pressure, any kind of pain, any migraine, which they were coming.
Well, there must have been some PSD.
Oh, absolutely.
PTSD.
Yes. PTSD, 100%.
PTSD.
And so when I said that, it was like, well, it took time to get out of that. And make a shift. Well, no sooner did I start making a shift. I think it was just it was less than a year, right, Rex? Yeah, less than a year that I was like, I said I need an MRI, and whenever I'm asking for that, because anybody that's been in an MRI knows, it's not day at the carnival.
Yeah.
Some people, it's
Very
legitimately
claustrophobic.
terror.
Yeah,
It's
claustrophobic.
yeah. I don't deal with that, but it's for me, it's a different, because your head needs to be tightly so that my head doesn't move. Well, that's right where those nerves are, and that's right where my everything starts, and and the pain just is unreal. Cranial pain is unreal. So you're getting clamped in. A lot of times they'll put cotton balls and tape my eyes shut because they don't want even blinking to happen or even eye movement as much as possible. That's on top of this teeny, long, kind of not even a one-person cave, it feels like. And they do their best. There's air pumping, and they've got mirrors, and they talk to you, and they're beautiful. They're beautiful people that are meant to work in there. So if you have one coming up, I want you to just say, I've got this, and they've got me. They're watching you every minute. Put on your favorite music. Tell them anything you're experiencing. Other than pain, I don't deal with that claustrophobia as much as others. But still, I think MRIs overall are just not a joyride. For one reason or another for people, and they're long. Mine can go well over an hour, with and without contrast. But anyway, when I went to my doctor and I'm saying my family doctor, I think I need an MRI. My head just doesn't feel right, and it was different than before. So we were kind of thinking, we need to check. So he ordered an MRI and an MRA, which looks at the vessels. Mm-hmm. And is having a lot of head pain, serious head pain. I've had migraines. Telling you now, none of you tell me I'm having a migraine. I'll let you know if I have a migraine. I know the difference. I know the difference between tension, cluster, migraine. Had them all. Had them together. Had them, and so when someone's head hurts, don't just automatically assume they have a headache or a migraine. There's a lot more that can go on. I say that because my pain was downplayed for years by other people. I have that too. It's not that big of a deal. Take some ibuprofen. Take Tylenol. Maybe you need a warm bath. Shh. That's all I'll say about that. Shh. Unless you know. Or just say, I have migraines. Is that what you're experiencing? Let it be an open-ended question, not closed off to what you think. And yes, I get this way. You'll get used to it. But he ordered them, and I miss that doctor. I have amazing doctors now, but I have a special place in my heart for my older doctor too. And anything I came to him and said, there wasn't a question. He knew that I had been on a 10-year-long journey of pain and discomfort and fear and conquering that for the most part, and so he ordered him. That was the second time when I got this call. It was early in the morning. It was before my doctor's office opened, so it didn't make sense to me. I'm like, why would he be calling? Mm-hmm. My stomach dropped as soon as I said that, because I know why they call outside of hours, or I know why they... This is the second time. My first doctor that's, seen my bones change, I seen that terror, and this time I heard it, just this sick. And my doctor called me from his car before he got in the office, and he just, this is a doctor, and I'm in my car. I apologize. I needed to talk to you before I start my day. Your tumor's back.
It's really
And you just, in that moment when you're hearing it, I know you all know, you freeze. It's your body's way of coping.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you freeze, there's not a lot of thought process going on. Certainly not a lot of questions.
How many years have gone by since you...
Over 10. Well, yeah, over 10.
Yeah. And chronic pain, you talked about how chronic pain, you've been experiencing it for 8 years, but it's got to be more than that.
No, see, if I say 8 years, that's serious, severe, steady, chronic.
Oh, okay.
The years, so from my tumor, before my tumor,
Mm-hmm.
I was experiencing a lot of pain, but it wasn't enough to really interrupt my life.
It was part of at least the chronic suffering and the conditions that are kind of associated
Yeah, but I
with
didn't
chronic
even
pain.
consider it that
Yeah,
until...
it was all leading up to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just kind of figured it's like anyone else.
Yeah.
You go through
The
pains in life.
procedure and then get it done and then...
And I
go
was getting relief for most of my days. Was it happening regularly? Yeah, pretty much. But I was getting relief. I was able to do what I needed to do as a wife.
Did they even work? Yeah, work or church.
As a wife.
Yeah.
Anything in our church at the time. As a mother, my number one job, and as an employee, which I always took those jobs very seriously, no matter where I worked.
Yeah.
I took pride in being the best for someone, but it was never enough to get in the way. And I'll touch on this after I finish, like what is. So the second call, your tumor's back.
Mm-hmm.
That call was very quiet, and for him as well. He needed to process that, and I want to say thank you right now to nurses and doctors for that alone. That you are that front line, and you're the first person, and you're gonna see the hardest blow. You're gonna see the shock, and you're gonna see the devastation and the trauma, and you're even gonna get some that are angry, and it's not ever you. And I feel for you, and I pray for you, and we cannot thank you enough. The next thing I did was, Rex was at work, so he didn't answer the first call, and so I called my mom, and I went into the closet where I had the scans, because back then they would give you the big old folder of scans. It wasn't electronic quite yet, right? So I went and I did not look at my scans. That was healthy for me until the doctors. I had a team of doctors that were looking at it for me. I did not need to do any damage trying to figure it out myself. For the most part, I've said, because there's been some times where I've snuck in and read the report of the radiologist as I've gotten to know terms, and so later on I've known before doctors' calls or whatever, but I grabbed the scans and pulled. I knew what to look at, because there's just dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of pictures, and I knew where to go, and I pulled it out, and I sank down the wall, and as the phone was ringing, my mom answered, and what do you do when you're talking to your mom? You don't talk much, you cry. It's your mom, and then your dad, and you're just like, things switch from like, you're gonna fix this, right, into, I'm so sorry that I'm putting this into your life. I'm placing this on your shoulders, because I'm giving you a parent's worst nightmare, and you've already gone through so much, but I can't not tell you. That'd be worse. So we cried together, and she did what a great mom does, Then we dealt with it.
Yeah,
and
we're here for
you're strong enough, and we're just gonna get I'm going to do my job, and that's getting everybody on board and making sure they know, and everyone's praying, and you go fight this. And it was just as hard talking to Rex, because our understanding was most have one tumor. Fewer have 2 of these tumors. And after 2, it's either it's already gone very aggressive, or if you've had 2 and they take it out, that's pretty much. And Rex, you can let me, you can weigh in, is what I'm trying to say on this. 2 tumors were, for the most part, the most they've seen. So like, it either goes aggressive, we had to have hard talks on what that would mean for my eye, and even more if they had to scrape out further if it had gone to cancer, or certainly the loss of my eye and vision, because it just doesn't work without that moisture of the lacrimal gland. And had those hard talks. That tumor looked very different. It wasn't smooth like the other one. It was very, and that worried them. So it was like, if you make it through this and we can get you out of this, we should be looking good. And that one was not that full 10-year wait. It was 5, right? So that was the time. That tumor they took out, and that worried them.
You're talking about the second tumor?
Yes.
And that was how many years after you had the surgery of the first?
Over 10.
Okay.
So that was supposed to be a same-day surgery. And he let us know that this time I'm sending it to 2 places, 2 labs, because I've pretty much, the message was, I've seen cancer and I know it. And that would have been heavy, and it was for the moment that we were sitting with him hearing it, right? But, and as much as I could understand what, and I don't even know when, it's not gonna make sense of how I even heard this. It just, I don't know, because of what happened. But I knew that he was very concerned. I think Rex relayed this just after things had settled, and I'll explain why. He was, and I'll say this and then you'll see kind of a little, we'll continue on, but he sent it to 2 labs because of that concern. It looked so different all throughout it. Sporadic and just different. And then some things happened we did not expect. That where they watch you for 45 minutes and then you're like up, and yeah, that didn't happen. Rex came back, and we had a lot of beautiful family waiting in the waiting room, and it was a surgical building that was detached from LDS Hospital. LDS Hospital is just across the street, and so they were in the surgical building with us, our families, and Rex was the only one allowed back at that time, and all I knew was, well, nothing until I felt shooting serious pain up under my jaw. And man, I was irritated at that. I was like, what are you... Once I'd wake up and I realized, oh, somebody's digging there. Why are you digging there and who are you? Like,
Yeah.
because I don't remember, I didn't at that time remember that that's my anesthesiologist.
Yeah.
And Rex was crying. And before I could even say anything, my eyes would roll back and I'd be back out.
Yeah, you were just, you was just not responding for quite some time.
Over
and
45 minutes or over.
And they had to go and get some.
So that happened, I don't know how many times. And
Yeah.
when it started getting real serious, like, okay, this is not just, they're just a slow at coming to.
Mm-hmm.
When I started feeling his hand shake like that hard, because these nerves, anybody pushes up in their jaw, that hurts,
Mm-hmm.
or behind, and so that's what or that sternum rub, so they were doing that, but he was shaking. It was like the third or fourth time he had tried, and when I felt his hands shaking, and I woke up long enough for Rex to say, and he's crying, sobbing at that point, and he looked straight at me and said, you stay with me. Was that what you said?
Yeah.
He just, willed it. You stay with me. Because at that point, he's been going through this with the doctors, anesthesiologists. I think that anesthesiologist called the head one. They called my surgeon back in, which he didn't have a lot to say. It's just, I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Very concerned. And I came slowly to after just basically beating the hell out of me, and but I wasn't able to get up and use the restroom or anything, and anybody that's had surgery and come right out of it, what do you need first? Well, besides oxygen, you need pain relief. You've just been through something. I got this much. 0 pain meds because of, even though I finally was awake, everything was tanking. And so...
You couldn't just give them.
No, they could not give me any relief. So it felt like the only way I could describe it was like a big hefty drill, just actively and never turning off. Somebody's just drilling into my head and my eye, and that's how I described it to anybody that would ask me. As you can imagine, in my own world, just trying to. But when it comes to making baskets, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what condition I'm in. I'm up for that anytime. Because I remember the nurse and Rex, and it was such an ordeal to get me to do anything because I'm tanking, But I really had to use the restroom. And in the restroom, it was just me and the nurse at the point. She's trying to hold on to me, and Rex is out the door ready. And I'm still kind of out of it too.
Well, you're talking about, we had already rolled.
Nope.
You're still
It
talking
was right
about...
before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was right
okay.
before we rolled. So, I needed to take a bathroom break because I was not going to do the bedpan again.
Hmm.
Those who know just know that's horrible. I just refused. I'm like, I don't care how many people, I will go use the restroom like proper. And so I got toilet paper, and she's waiting for me, looking at me like, what are you doing? Thinking I'm probably still looped. I'm not. And I've got some right here. And anyways, still on the throne, finishing up. She's like, why are you wadding it up in a ball? And she didn't know. I see a can across the bathroom. And here's my chance. And so, and in this condition, like, who the hell? And she sees me doing this. And she's like, I love the memory of that. Because she's like, this is the most strange moment probably of her career. but she let it happen. Like, okay, it's clean, so do what you're gonna do. And she sees I'm aiming, and then the interest. Oh my, okay, silly girl, throw it, swish. And I remember my response was like, and we got such a good and needed laugh in that moment. I wish Rex was in there. But anybody knows that I'm always, oh, let me see if I can get it. Let me see if I can get it in. Because as a kid, I would just practice the hoops until it got too dark to see the hoop. So I am a garbage swooshing, actively dying fool. If that ain't talent, tell me, TikTok. Anyway, Rex has to know this so all the time. So she's like, okay, so we're good, we're done. Finally get me on the stretcher, and it was a good time to get me on that stretcher because I started going out again. And they wheeled me across that street in rain, and went up to the cardiology floor. I think it was 4th floor, I remember. I was just hearing things, voices at that point. Started being more unaware, and they hooked me up to everything. And I was in bad enough condition that everything came to me. X-rays, ultrasounds, and it was just strange because I wasn't aware fully of what was going on, and how serious it was. And to see that many people and that many, and for hours, I think it was going on about 7+ hours that I had not had any meds. So you can imagine, between my body wanting to shut down and my pain, and that night Rex and his mom stayed the night, and they're still trying to figure out what's going on, running tests as fast as they could, but some just aren't just instant. And my vitals, I think, were traumatized that night, because every time it was just, every few minutes something would beep, and it was something dropping, and just kept needing up oxygen and up this and up that. And finally the doctor comes in and says, their first was adrenal fatigue. And right away I remember thinking, and this was like the next morning, and I did eventually get pain meds, which I was happy about, but sad because of a spiritual experience I had before that, because I knew that would end. But early the next morning, the doctor came in and said this, and they drew, your adrenal gland, and told me all that it does and why you're tanking. And but even then, I felt like that cannot be just fatigue, but I don't know. And they continued running tests, but I think they realized very quickly, you're needing too much to sustain life. So it's not, they agreed. And it was complete adrenal failure that happened.
Which was scary as, oh my gosh.
So all chemicals that keep you alive, just as important as your brain, your lungs, your heart, and all of that, done, stopped. And we learned just years later that, because no one knew, not even my endocrinologist, and she said, I've never seen such a complete and bad failure, like shut off. And she said, they saved your life. They saved your life. And but years and years later, we learned, because they told us then, you can never have surgery again without having steroids ready to go. So the steroids so every surgery I've had then, we've had to kind of talk to the doctors. I could go on adrenal failure, or at least, this severe fatigue, but we just had to plan for it because no one knew what happened.
I just remember when your eyes dilating so wide and having you kind of look like you just wasn't there, and like I was literally gonna lose you, and
Rex went through the hardest week, I think.
I mean
was
that
like
was I honestly knew that I was close to losing you, and you were talking
a few times that week.
Yeah.
So I'll touch on that. Yeah, it was really strange because so what was supposed to be same day surgery turned into almost a full week of being almost going to intensive care as well.
Yeah.
So, and Rex was bringing that up. It was really strange having them just work tirelessly, and I didn't realize what a job I was, and we'd have visitors, and twice I was in the middle of talking, and a nurse would just about come running in, and I'm just having a conversation with visitors. And
what's the problem?
Yeah, and she just, loads me up. And anybody who's had, I know I'm going to say it wrong, so I'm not even going to, it's what gets your heart going. And it feels like a heart attack. And so conversation stops. I'm just, and it's a long time. That getting that muscle to do what it doesn't want to do hurts bad. And I would look at him like, why'd you do that? You rude son of a, But then I look at and my heart rate's dipping in the 30s. And so they're like, well, because we're trying not to let you die. So, but it was weird because I would be having conversations. What Rex was talking about is Rex and I were just alone in the room one night, and we were just talking. And it was a rare moment of the pain was decent pain control, and my vitals are stable, we thought. We're talking, and his face starts changing right as soon as I start feeling that I'm falling. I'm falling, and it won't stop. And it's getting darker and darker and darker, and he watches my eyes physically change. And I just was in a tunnel, and I felt like I couldn't get to him. And then I just slowly fell back, because I was kind of halfway sitting up, and I slowly fell back. And Rex just, I don't know if he even, did you press the nurse's button, or, because he was loud. Nelle!